everybody to The Greatest Show, where I get to show off the greatest people and have way too much fun doing it. Today, I have my special guest here, Mr. John Wheeler. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to be here. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. And today this was actually a great example of what showed up right before we started to record this. So I wanted to talk with John about how you can be an energy that can contribute. It can contribute to someone, it can contribute to something, it can contribute to whatever. And we were having a lot of technical difficulties because often I live stream this on Facebook and then we put the recording up on YouTube. And the whole time it was being in action. So John was just being the space. It was so beautiful. Not many words, but also being willing to use words and just the ease and the space that you created with all of this, rather than making it more stressful or trying to fix the problem. So then you solidify that there is a problem. So John, can you tell us, what do you know about being an energy and supporting people with that?
Well, one of the biggest things that I've noticed, at least in my world and in my day job as a therapist, is one of the pieces that clients often say is they can come in and they can talk for a whole hour and I can say nothing or just, okay. And they leave going, I don't know what. We didn't really do any therapy. We didn't even talk about anything, but I feel better leaving, or I feel different leaving. And what I had to look at for me, and most of you out there probably do this also, is I had to look at how I interact with them, but how I'm interacting with them and engaging with them without saying anything. Just by you showing up. And the biggest piece for me is showing up with no judgment in my world for the person that's in front of me, or what's going, like you're talking about with the computer and thing. No judgment of what's happening, no judgment of what they're saying, no judgment of what's unfolding. Just going, So this is happening. Okay. And it's hard to put into words.
Well, you did a really great job, actually. And so can you speak a little bit to judgment? So often, and some tools for someone that maybe they would have functioned from, this is wrong, this isn't the, their function from right and wrong, or this is good or bad. Were you just born with this no judgment thing? Did you work at it? Like, how did that show up for you?
That's a great question. I'm like, was I born with that? I don't think I was born with it. I mean, okay. And correct. After I say that, I'm like, no. So everyone, I don't think it's something special to me. All of us, as I'm talking about, all of us are born with that. We're all born with no judgment. If you ever doubt that, go see a newborn baby. Because there's nothing different about that baby being born than when you were a baby, other than the time in which they're being born. And if you're ever around a kid, even a toddler who hasn't had a lot of, angry, weird things in their world, you'll notice the same thing with them, where they don't have a judgment. Like, if you ever had the kid that runs up to you and says exactly what they think, or they're like, you have funny teeth, and you're like, well, that's rude. They didn't judge it. For them, that wasn't a judgment. That's just fact. Like, they saw it, they see it, and they go, oh, you got ugly teeth. Okay. So one of the things I've noticed is, and your question there is, we all come in with no judgment. What we start to do as we grow, and as it's projected at us and it's put on us by other people, that we have to judge ourselves. And you have to judge yourself to get it right and to appease people. And it usually starts with your family, because when you're a kid, all you want to do is contribute to people. Like, that's your pure function is, how do I make someone's life greater? How do I contribute to them? And when it's rejected or resisted, then you start to change who you are, how you interact with them in order to fit, so that they don't treat you mean, or like you misidentify when they say they're happy and they're really sad. But then you go, oh, well, now if that's the energy of happy, then I'm not happy. And I'm like, this is a huge conversation, and I'm getting really excited talking about it. But the major piece in that I've noticed is really starting to look at the piece and this idea of how do you be an energy that's a contribution and how do you be an energy that contributes to people is acknowledge, like, my number one tool, and maybe this is how I to answer that second part of the question of how did I get to the place of no judgment. The number one thing that I tell all of my clients and I tell anyone I work with is anything you want to change or anything you want to see different starts with acknowledging it. Because my go-to thing has become, my go-to question is, if you don't acknowledge something, how can you see what it is in order to change it? So if you're looking at having no judgment, you might first have to acknowledge when you're doing it or when it's being done to you, because it starts with that.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. So let's bring this into how you can apply this to being an energy for someone. So examples that are popping are like, when someone that you care about has someone die in their family or someone close to them, or they've lost a job that they loved or had a car accident or something. We want to validate the trauma and drama, or we want to validate, oh, that's terrible, that's awful, that's wrong. Like we almost want to create a judgment as though that's caring. So yeah. So what is this other possibility here of no judgment and being that space of change?
Well, I think the big piece of it, and looking, especially with those examples, because as you started to use that example, I'm like, that's so funny, because in my world, I am the person when someone passes or someone dies or you have a funeral, whether it's family or otherwise, I'm the person that's going to the funeral I'm not crying, I'm not emoting, so to speak. And some people, of course, think that that's weird, where they're like, you should feel sad, like it's a funeral, you should feel this certain way. And what's been interesting in interacting with people in the last few years and with the energetic piece of this is it's not about necessarily not validating them, but it's, again, that space of not having a judgment. Because what's actually going to stick them isn't if you're validating it. It's if you have the point of view that they feel that way, and then you say, oh, it's so sad. Oh, it's so horrible. I can't believe that happened to you. And it also kind of starts to make them a victim to what's going on. So it takes them out of that space where they have choice to be empowered to have however they're feeling, to, if they want to do emotion, if they want to do trauma, like let them have it. And what if they can have it without you having to validate it for them, but you also don't have to make them wrong.
Right.
Because I think most of us, when we're looking at, if I don't validate it, and some people will come to you who want you to validate it. Like I'm looking at it going, well, what do you do when someone comes and that's what they want from you? It's like, validate it.
Yeah. That's something
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, like, so I have 2 young kids, and the youngest is 7 years old. And sometimes he's like, he just wants me to validate, like, this is the worst thing. Like, Christmas has just been ruined. This is awful, Mom. Don't you see it? And I ask, like, okay, so what does he require of me right now? Okay, he requires me just to validate. And so I've used the words of like, wow, that's terrible. But the energy is of that, like that, what you talked about, that no judgment. So I'm not actually judging it as terrible. I'm just using the words that he requires. And often, as soon as that little bit of validation happens, like all the charge goes off and he just moves on.
Well, and it's funny too, because a piece of this that I'm looking at is putting words to being the energy, because that's kind of the piece of this. That's like, how do you be the energy for someone? And then you're also using words and whatever. So how do you actually access that energy? And the first thing that just hopped in my head with this, when you were talking about what does your kid need to hear and what words do you use, and how you can use the words but not be the energy that's validating that precise idea that they have that it's terrible. But it is taking that, it's like first acknowledging the fact that you actually can be aware of energy, and that you, not that you can be, you are aware of energy. You've always been aware of energy. And if you ever doubt that, here's how I first was introduced to the idea that I could have recognized this. If you're the person that walks into a room and you can tell that something is off, or for me, it was my friends that would come up to me. I could always do this, and they'd say, "I'm fine. My world is great. Everything's awesome." And you go, "No, it's not." And they didn't say anything that made you actually think they're not okay, but you could feel it. Like you could just being around them going, "Okay, something's off with you here." And so first acknowledge the fact that you have a capacity to do that. We all have a capacity to do it. It's what we often like to say, "I got a vibe from this person," or "I got a weird feeling." And to actually access that piece of the validation is to also not take their point of view without giving up yours. So like if they come at you and they need to be validated that something's terrible, you can validate their point of view that it's terrible, but you don't have to give up your point of view that something greater is available. You can still be that energy with them in that moment and say, "Yeah, it is terrible." And you can mean it without agreeing with it, which has been really challenging for me to. That's the piece that I think a lot of people have like trouble getting to. So they say, "Well, if I say that, I just sound sarcastic." And I said, "Yeah, what's the difference when I say it and when you say it? The difference is I mean it. I'm not doing it to be sarcastic. Yeah, it's terrible." It's like, here's an example of energy. Ready? For everyone watching this. Listen to the two things I say, and you see if you notice the difference. "Yeah, that's very terrible. I can't believe that happened to you." Versus, "Yeah, that's really terrible. I'm so sorry that happened to you." Which
Wow.
one of those actually seems like an invitation to something beyond their trauma and drama? The first one or the second one?
Second.
The second one. And what was different? Not the words.
Mm-hmm.
and I like that example because I did this with on one of a telecom I did recently, and I ended up like having someone crying. Like it was just really cool, and that was my first acknowledgement. And for me, noticing the energy, because I was talking about like if my parents are judgmental, how I would be like, "You know what? I don't have time for your crap today. I'm not doing it." And to actually be able to say that and not say, "I'm so tired of this crap. I just can't handle it. I'm not doing it." And that's like, there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference in that. One of those is, I don't need you to give up that you have this judgment in your world, but I'm not taking it on today. I don't have the space for it. Versus, "Dude, shut up. I ain't got time for you. Please stop talking." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. That is incredibly beautiful, and I think gives a lot of people stuff to look at with just the energy that they're being with the words that they're using. Um, so you talked about being aware of energy. You can walk into a room, you can get a sense. How do people? It's almost like assessing the energy. So you are in a situation, right? And you want to, whatever, you want to contribute, like you said, we want to contribute. You want to, be that energy. So how someone who's new, that's like, I don't even know if I would know what to say or what to do or what's required, or how do I even get clear on what I'm aware of? What do you
Yeah.
have any, some words of wisdom?
Well, first place to start would be, what is it that they actually require? So start with the question. So if you're walking into a situation, maybe if you're looking to contribute, like that's what you're going into this going, "Okay, I really want to contribute to changing this thing." Maybe the first place to start is, do they want you to contribute to it? And then maybe a second one is, can you contribute to it? And no, you can get a no, and you're not wrong if they don't want it or you can't. That's just how it is. Some things you will, some people won't want it. It's fine. Doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean anything about them either. It's just where they are. And then ask, what contribution can you be? And the biggest piece of this it was almost like, knowing what you were going to ask me, like actually knowing what the question was without knowing what the question was. I was already getting it in my head, like, oh, just do this thing. But to actually first recognize the fact that you actually being there, you just existing in the moment, is a contribution. There's not something you have to do.
Yes.
And that has been the biggest, like, people a lot of times will ask how do I do this? How do I do this? What about this? How do I do? It's like, it's not a how, it just is. So like, if you want to, and start with that, if you want to be a contribution, start by being the contribution, not by doing contribution. Because for me,
I
what
feel
I've
like
noticed,
that should be written somewhere with your name under it.
we'll have to re-listen to actually catch what I, unless you remember
Yeah.
what I said. It just came out of my mouth. I really don't know what I said.
Well, you said start with being the contribution, not doing the contribution. But maybe more beautifully, but along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. It was probably those words. It just sounded more eloquent the first time.
Yeah.
But it does start with the being piece. And that's one of the things for me, and with Cassy inviting me on the show, and my interactions with Cassy in the last month or so, that's the piece that started changing for me, is having people. And you won't always have those people. Like, I'm lucky enough, I have the people in my life that do say, oh my God, you're such a contribution, or this is how you contributed to me, or this is what you're being, and it's so helpful. And if you don't have that in your world, it's okay. Ask for those people, but it's also just acknowledge, it's really for you acknowledging that you are a gift. Which is and I just did a Facebook Live on my own page earlier with this, and I'm like, I know, big hope and dream for the world that people actually get this, and you'll hear me when you hear it, and you'll get it when you get it. But you existing now is not a coincidence, and you being here is a gift. And if you start to actually get that is how you start contributing to people. And that's how you start contributing to the world. It's not always about the one person. The one person that treated you poorly or treated you horribly, it's not for you. And who else can you influence? And who else gets the gift of you? And ask for more of that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I actually, so I was pondering for a moment where you were talking, like, how does someone start to get a sense of just being that hasn't actually been looking at that? And the story popped into my head of when I was a kid. I remember being really upset, and we had like a little dog, and he was usually kind of a brat, but he just came over and he like looked at me and was crying, and he just lied down next to me. He didn't bring me Kleenex. He didn't like say the right thing that I needed to hear that gave me hope to a new possibility. But he was just being this energy, like being this contribution. And I remember going, just relaxing and starting to already have a sense of possibility just by this animal being next to me.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm saying. We can be as people.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, and this is interesting because I used to teach science, and I would always get annoyed, and now I understand why. But I used to get so annoyed when people would say humans and animals. And I'm going, no, humans are animals. We are in the same scientific class. We are not separate. I'm so confused. And then you hear things like this. It's like, that's probably one of the biggest lies, is that we're separate from it. Like, if you notice something in an animal that they're being and doing, chances are you can be and do that also. And I have a similar story with my puppy. I had a day where I didn't have, it was at the beginning of COVID, actually.
Oh.
The beginning of COVID, and I was set up, to have the greatest month ever and the biggest revenue streams, and woohoo. And then COVID happened, and it all just went away, supposedly. I found out later it did not happen. But in my world, in that exact moment, it was over.
Yeah.
And I actually had a moment where I was like crying, and I was like bawling. It was very traumatic. And my dog, I look down, and my dog like sets up on her butt and puts her feet up, and she just looks at me. And I look at her as I'm sobbing, and then she just laid down. And I started laughing, like hysterically laughing. Because in that moment, I got where in her world, she was like, dude, what's going on? Like, why are you crying? Like, it's not even a thing. And then just laid down. And I was like, all right, dog, you got me. I guess I got to change my point of view here. And then I did. And things were fine. And I'm not dead. If anyone was wondering.
You're not dead. You
I'm
survived.
not dead. And I'm not poor. And I'm not broke. It was nothing like I thought it would be when COVID started. But yeah. And and another example of this, if you're someone who's looking to get a sense of what it's like to have that peace, or like to, I like to say, we always say being, and in my world it's like to get the energy of what it is to exist, like to literally just like, yep, here I am, without any doing, without any thinking, is go out. Nature is usually the easiest place because nature doesn't have a brain, and you don't, energy, being aware of energies, you don't have all the crap from other people and the energy they're being. But like finding a tree that you can touch, that you can sit on, or like go, for me, sometimes I'll put a quilt out and I'll just go lay in the grass under the leaves of the two trees, and I'll literally just lay there with my puppy. Animals, like Cassy said, dogs, cats. If you have an interaction with horses, that's like truly magical. And if you don't have either of those, you can also like give yourself, like find something that's fun for you and that's enjoyable for you, and give yourself the space to actually do that and see if you notice a difference. Because all of us at some point need a little refuel, and it's usually frowned upon. You're not allowed to get energetic refills. You're supposed to work until you're tired, then go to sleep, and that's supposed to be your refill. So if you're sleeping and you're not feeling like you're easy for me to say. If you're sleeping and not feeling refilled and refueled, you might try something different. Or just be tired. So I'll let you be tired. If that's what I need to contribute to you, is you to be tired, I will let you all be tired. And this is also a great example of being an energy.
Yeah. And that I love that you showed those different, because it can be that energy of laughter and play and silliness, and it can be just peace and space and ease and there's all these energies available.
And of course there's being angry and hateful and whatever, but I don't want to sample that, because there's a time and place, and this isn't it.
I'm sure everyone watching has experienced that at least once in their life.
Yes. If not by you, then by someone.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're at the other end and going, huh? Just me. I'm the only one. Someone yells at me like, what are you yelling about again? Help me understand why you're mad. I'm confused.
Well, see, that right there, though, you just... you just showed another possibility, rather than like, why are you angry, and then fighting back, right?
Yeah.
Or validating, you're right, I suck, I don't know what I did wrong, but I must suck. Just being that, can you help me understand? Like that.
Help me understand how you got here. I'm confused. And usually, if you'll find too, that they can't even tell you how they got there. They just did. You're like, dude, you're like really angry. Like, what did I do that made you so angry? Maybe not in the moment that they're like explosive, might, especially for those of you with kids. If your kid's mad, leave them alone. Go back later when they're done being mad at you and they're done thinking you're the demon from everywhere, that they're just stuck with you and you're the most horrible thing on the planet. And I will tell you, if your kid thinks that, you're a great parent. And if your kid doesn't think that, guess what? You're also a great parent.
Oh, great. Well, okay, this has been an amazing conversation. I know you have so much more to offer on this topic, so I really encourage you guys listening here, check out John Wheeler's links below. Check out his, he just said that he did this beautiful Facebook Live. Go watch it. Get deep into his content. He is a facilitator, an access consciousness facilitator. He's got some calls coming up, and we'll put links to that as well. So please check him out and get more John, because he's willing to contribute. And I know we all got so much out of this. So thank you for being here. We're gonna end this on a game. You ready?
Yes. I have to wait. Which one of these is mine? Just either of them?
I don't know. I got mine.
Okay, yours is in a different place.
Yeah, yours is, so you get to pick. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm going to explain the game for the peeps.
Go for it.
So this game is called Silent Charades. So we're going to exercise our capacities to create an energy or create a thought from silence. So Here's how the game works. We each take a turn silently acting out. It's going to be either a person, a place, an action, or object while the other person guesses. We're going to have a 60-minute timer. Oh, we each go twice. That's what they told me. I thought we were going once, but we could go twice. Let's do it. So John will go first, then I'll go, then he can go, then I can go. This is going to be great. And I'm going to put a timer on. Do. Should have like a little music or something. Are you ready? Did you pick yours?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited. I don't know if I'm good at this game, but I'm ready to try. Okay, go. Butterfly, bird, bird, sky, fly, space, bird, little, small, grow? No, I'm stuck on the bird. Second word. 2 words? Well, first word. Grow, expand. Ah!
It's
What was it?
It's a big bird.
Big bird. Oh,
But
like
I did bird
Sesame
first,
Street.
so I should have did big and then bird, but
Right. That was awesome. Okay, all right, I gotta pick one. Ooh. Okay, I've got mine. I'll set a timer for me. Okay, are you ready?
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Snowball fight?
Yes!
Food, yeah.
Yay!
At first, I almost said sandcastle. I was like, you know,
Yeah, I was like, can I make it look like a ball?
And then you did that, I was like, okay, ball. Got it. Oh, boy.
Oh, okay, another one. I'm going to get this one. All right. Open, reading a book.
Yeah.
Ah! That was good.
That's like, if I had, I thought this one, and then, but then you would have said banking or mirror.
You're right. I'm glad yeah. And I totally can picture you. Did you ever have this? I don't know if, because you're in the States and I'm in Canada, but there would be like this book, you know, the guy with like he's got like the nice jacket and he's got the pipe and he's reading a book and he's very wise.
Like in the 90s.
Yeah. I'm aging myself
like
right now.
The narrator who would do Sherlock Holmes, like one of those guys that's like,
yeah, I feel like I want to see you do this somewhere in the world.
I'll have to do a photo op. Op. Bubble pipe in a book with a Hugh Hefner jacket. I like it.
I like it too. Okay. Oh my God, this card is hard. Oh no.
I have one card that seems relatively easy, which both of those came from, and then the other one I was like, oh girl.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. That's what's happening.
It's your show. You can do what you want, right?
Oh, that's right. Okay, good.
I won't know if you cheat.
I mean, we kind of just told people that it was Okay, I think this one will make sense. Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to get the timer going. Okay. All right.
I want to say bow and arrow, but I don't think that's correct. It's not a lawnmower. Blowing up. It's not blowing a bubble. It's not a slingshot.
Oh!
A trumpet?
It was a trumpet! Oh my God! I can't believe I did that.
It's also a good example too of how you know when an energy isn't. This is I really like this because the last thing you asked me was if you're looking like assessing an energy, there's your example. Any number one of those things is like, it's not bow and arrow, but that's what I want to say, but that's not it.
But it's not it.
Like, what is it? It's not a bubble gun. We're not blowing bubbles. Okay.
Oh, but that would have been cool. Why did I think that would be easy? And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I should have had. I was holding the trumpet.
That's what told me. Once you said, you did that, I was like, oh, it's an instrument, a trumpet. Which fun stuff. I play trumpet. Well, I haven't played it in a very long time.
That was probably why I was drawn to it. Okay, I want to hear you play.
Oh, there's no way. I haven't played that thing in like 10 years, literally 10 years, not exaggerating.
All right. I think
when I get it, I did find it, so maybe I need to play it.
Maybe it's asking for you.
Yeah. I'll have to go tell my mother to give it back.
Give it back.
I think it's at their house. Anyway.
Okay. All right, thank you
Bloopers.
so much, John. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next Thursday, and please check out John more if you're so pulled to. I know I'm going to be creeping him, so.
Well, thanks. Creep away.
Creep away. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Bye
for having
now.
me.